for me, for skills, right, and Daryl talks about it, kind of like skills that bridge up, right? So he's, Daryl talk about, there's kid in Pee Wee who can skate down the wing and take a clapper and score on every single shift, but that skill doesn't bridge up when he gets, to higher levels because the goalies get better. And I'm curious if there's skills sometimes that goalies are learning, obviously when you're tiny, that, how do you determine, what might work for a goalie when they're really young, but won't work as they get older? Like, is that something that you would talk about at that type of skills course? Or
yeah, so the thing that I really was trying to decipher the whole time was essentially my goalies go up to about the age of 15 and they're girls. So my goalies are from 7 to 15. So I am not coaching the goalies that they are talking about for the majority of the time. So a lot of it was how do we change this? And a lot of the goalie coaches are the same thing. They have younger kids. So how do we change this so that at the base level, they're getting what they need up here? And I think a lot of goalie coaches and maybe coaches in general have felt like in the last probably 5 years that more movement is better for kids. And the better they get at pushing off the posts, because that's the way goaltending has gone, the better they get on their knees and around, that will then make them better as they go later. But what has really changed in the last year is getting back to the stance and standing up and reacting to the puck. And so with little kids, it's ensuring that their athletic stance is a base. And with the Team Alberta goalie coaches like Brad Kirkwood on the ice for an hour just taught stance, which I found fascinating, and just working on moving out of the stance and having the same stance, but trying to break down everything so that it really did go back to the basics. It's not necessarily that things don't bridge up, it's that you're teaching things too early, I think, in goaltending. And there's a real issue with goalies getting injured, obviously later in life. Having just had a hip replacement 8 months ago, I know fully well that it's kind of the survival of the fittest for the goaltenders. Like, if you don't get injured, you can kind of keep going. So getting the idea across at a camp like this, that think of your goalies more as pitchers, and really have an idea of how many butterflies, how many up and downs they're doing in a practice, and to not overtax them. That a punishment for the goalies is not to go do 50 butterflies. So be aware that the butterflying and the up and down RVHs should be for when they are in the net performing the skill, and punishment should be skating and edge work and doing things like that are not causing injury. So that's hard. When I run a goalie camp, that's hard because there's so many shots that are coming in. And so thinking about how I can reconstruct the day to, have the goalie standing up more, but maybe working more on stick handling, working more on other things that are not just overtaxing the little kids' limbs and muscles and joints, so that these goalies at the age of 18, 19 are strong and solid at that point. I don't know if that makes sense, Kim, but.
No, it makes sense. And it's interesting with the overtaxing comment. My hockey schools, we do 3 hours of ice in a row. Most of that's for my efficiency. We have a flood between every hour, and the parents are always concerned, it's going to be too much, because they think I'm going to just skate them into the ground. But that idea of kind of changing intensity and changing the focus. So, the first hour might be a little more high tempo, but I usually go to shooting in the second hour, because it's rare with girls, especially the age group I'm at, that the shooting drills are really going to be super high tempo. And then we amp it up in the third hour. So I think it's a good point, because, a typical hockey school, 5 days a week, 3 hours, I find most of the kids are done by Thursday. That's why I only run my camps Monday through Wednesday. But you want quality, right? And
so some things that specifically you at your camp can do to change for the goalies is to create drills for goalies that make them stay on their feet, and make the girls have to stop every puck with their glove and blocker and they can't go down, things like that. Or tell the girls that every other shot is super important. So on the shot where they are kind of more resting, they're still watching it into their pads. They're still focused on, you know, getting the rebound in the corner, but they're maybe not butterflying, because every goalie coach now, on almost every shot, a goalie is butterflying. So just being cognizant of, like, yeah, an hour of goalie, anything shooting on the goalie is, you know, they're probably doing, I don't know, like 500 butterflies in that time, because you're up and down and up and down. So first is to watch to see like how much are they actually doing it, and then to kind of recreate the drill so that the goalie can be intense and then not intense and intense, and but still working on, always focused on getting the puck to your blocker and over, or glove and over, or making your shooters have to shoot top shelf for a certain drill and the goalies just stand and do that. Or the goalies can maybe deflect the puck. That was another fun one. They can stand in front and work on their hand-eye coordination as the players come in and shoot it, and they have to stop it with a paddle of their stick. So fun things like that you can kind of recreate. The goalies are still doing stuff. They're still participating. They're not ruining the drill, but being cognizant of what these goalies are going to be like when they're 17, 18.
Sami, I just as you talked, I had some things come through my mind. I'd like to bring them up related to everything you've talked about. The biggest thing on stance, I've always been a believer, it's not dodgeball, and butterflying is dodgeball. It's athletic dodgeball, but I'm glad to hear that they're moving back to a stance. So I want to get to a drill 30 years ago that I mentioned Yuri Kralik to you. And it was a 3-on-1 umbrella below the tops of the circles, where players would rotate through the triangle of the umbrella, waiting in line to a person in the middle. And they would get to pass 3 pucks and try to score on the goalie. 3-on-1's fair. Because the goalie's reading and he's staying in his stance and having to move. But I went to 3-on-0, which isn't fair. But I had to tell the goalies, stay on your feet, just try to be in the way of the puck and maintain that stance. So that's the first thing that struck me about that. The other thing was warming up goalies, the specificity of where you shoot, to allowing the goalie to work on the blocker or the glove or the low shots, and progressively working to random shooting, unpredictable shooting in a good way. It's just huge. So that's fundamental to me. And
also, yeah, on that, Wally, too, is the passive versus ready stance too. So you have a passive stance when the puck is, say, at, depending on the level, but outside, say, the ring out line, maybe even a little closer. You're in a standing stance and your stick is no longer on the ice.
Yeah.
So you're standing. You'll see NHL goalies next time you watch. They're scanning, and you're basically scanning, and you're getting yourself in position. And then you have a ready stance for when it's closer and they're about to shoot. So also in a warm up for goaltenders is working on the various different depths of the shot. So you want to start with further out, so you have more time to react, and then as you kind of get closer and you can react quicker. But that stimuli, starting at further with more reaction time is very important too, and working from the goalie with an upright passive stance with your hands up to then down in the ready position too, and just getting used to scanning. A big part of the conference was talking about the next best threat and where it is. So the goalie IQ, we had a whole presentation on goalie IQ, which I would love to show you guys too, which is being able to scan and read not only the next best threat, the way they shoot, where your defensive player is in relation to where they are, and sort of being able to figure out all of that at top speed while you're still watching over here, so in your periphery, was really fascinating.